you can't stop people from scrolling, you're not relevant.
That's how you actually want your customers to recall your brand, and that is what content was very important to us.
There's no playbook to virality, so there are a lot of people who keep asking, okay, what should I do?
Alright, content बहुत important होता है, and it's very important that everyone understands content in their own ways. Well, today this panel discussion has these amazing people with me. We have Tanya, the founder of Digitrix Education. We have Bhuman, who's the CEO of Wicked Good, and we have Naz, who's the franchise partner of Lakme India. Welcome to this panel discussion. Well, first of all, the word content. The first ever time when you heard this, what was the one thing which came to your mind? Starting with you.
Generally, from watching a bunch of YouTube videos, my word content came from having a bunch of people do things that keep me entertained for a while.
Right.
And that could mean on a personal front or from a product front, but that was my content introduction.
Wow, it's interesting. How about you?
Very similar, right? I mean, we're in the business of building brands.
Right.
So for a brand, I think community building starts at content.
Correct.
So for me, content, community, brand is all the same.
All right. So because you have a franchise, so I want to understand how did content really help in building your franchise?
So for me, when I actually launched, 7 years ago, content wasn't too great. But eventually, when you actually want to see competition growing and you need to make that type of a reach to your customers and your clients, I think that is the time when we actually wanted to look at content and social media content. I think that's quite engaging, and that's how you actually want your customers to recall your brand, and that is what content was very important to us.
Well, do you really look at numbers in terms of like, okay, this is a particular influencer, or this is what I have in front of me, or these are the little influencers that I have. So, what do you really go for, and how do you decide that?
We don't need clients, we need numbers. I mean, eventually your business scale up only because you have more clients, and your business grows because of the revenue building. So the content is something that, one, of course, it is engaging, your customers reach out to you, and numbers are very important. Yes.
Okay, a direct impact on when it is between your content strategy, and does it really affect your P&Ls? How does that work?
Well, I think you have to look at content in two ways. One when it's performance driven, and one when it's branding driven.
Right.
To build any brand, you require two things. P&L is the site. The process to build the P&L is the insight, one of which is content.
Okay.
So I think if you look at it from that lens, content is the ammunition that you require to build that community of repeat buyers, without which no brand can scale. So yes, you do look at it in the P&L, but only once that brand has been somewhat built. Then there is the next phase of growth where performance becomes very, very important.
Right.
But the initial phase is always brand driven, and to build that brand. And there I don't think any P&L can do justice, because it's an intangible.
Well, that answers that. Now, because you're the founder and it's your startup, so now tell me, how has content helped you grow your startup?
So we're still in pre-launch phase, but what content did for me was it defined a lot of the product and product design.
Right.
So for example, with the toys, right, you start thinking of, can I include 3 extra things for the children to do, that they'll wear it or they'll click pictures, and the users generate content for you. And in this day and age, when content is invaluable to start creating, if you include something where the users get to do it on themselves as well, it adds a tremendous amount of branding opportunities that you have that come out of nowhere. So as far as I see content, I see it as a way, as a path that leads to me getting social media engagement, me getting a lot of brand visibility out of absolutely nowhere. So it doesn't, as of right now, I don't build content to start posting on different things. I'm planning for the future that 4 months from now when I launch, I will have content, and that already comes into the product development.
Right. So it's basically user-generated content,
Exactly.
and you have to build up.
And you have to think about it like 10 months in advance, because you have to start manufacturing everything.
Right.
And you think about it in terms of what can I do that will generate the most content for me without me actually having to do much in the future.
Wow. So what have been your learnings over a period of time? Like you have to like really think.
You have to, right? So the way you look at it is always, can you look at people and see what they're doing right now, right? See how they're engaging their children with social media. How much are they willing to expose their children? What exactly do they use their children to do? Like, are you showing them playing with toys? Are you showing what they're doing day to day? Are you showing their little clothes? What is it that you're doing, and how can I integrate my brand into those elements of what they're using their family to do?
Wow.
So you're thinking backward after taking a look at what everyone is up to today, and then saying, okay, fine, now let me find my way into this.
All right. So how do you adapt to basically new trends which are like popping up, and how do you go by that?
Yeah, well, so there is a moment marketing that we do very carefully. Either it's occasion driven or it's something that has happened or is very fresh in the news, because our target audience is Gen Z consumers and young millennials.
Right.
So they definitely want to be in the moment rather than future or past.
Right.
So it's important to understand the target audience and have content around topics that are topical with that quirk or with that understanding that your target audience is going to be impacted by it.
Wow. So when it comes to like, living in the moment, I think that was one thing which happened with Apple when they launched the phone. They were not giving the chargers, but Samsung made a great bang about it on all social media. Like you can buy the phone and we are giving chargers. That's like bang on.
Yeah.
So have you gone through something like that in your experience in your career? Have you seen something like that with Indian brands?
Well, it's very young. I mean, we're in consumer brands. We're a 15-month-old company, so we've not personally, experienced it. But obviously, we've seen examples such as what you just mentioned spring up. But I think it's very important to be in the moment, whether it's tech, whether it's consumer space, or any other sort of startup. Because without that, you don't get insights, and without insights, you can't build anything.
Wow. So when you are thinking of changing your strategy, for example, you were going fine, and now there is a point where I think you have to take a detour or something like that. So how quickly does that happen with you when you have been doing this?
So it's when you're a startup, things change very quickly, and I guess you have to learn to adapt, and you can't be very set in your ways, right? One morning I think my product's going to be A, suddenly I do 10 tests and realize I was completely wrong, and we switch over. And you have to be agile, and that goes on to your branding and your marketing and your target audience and everything, right? From one day to the next, everything can change. And that's when you have to be ready to just move and drop the idea and drop what you thought, unless you have an absolute gut feel. But
Okay, so when it comes to taking advantages of the trends, how do you maximize on things like that?
honestly, the time of like where quick content has become a thing, it's actually become a huge advantage. Because think back to the time when we used to have like ads on TV or
Right.
like newspaper and things like that. Amul was something you'd remember as their ads because they used to pick up on like the latest information and put a hoarding about it.
Right.
And Amul was one of the very few people who could actually afford to do it.
Right.
But now we all can. Put out a new meme on your Instagram account, and hey, you're just as current as everyone else, and you've got eyeballs, and you've got people giggling about it. So if you're not current, and if your content looks stale, or it's in a format that people are not used to anymore, like now short form content has become the thing, right? If you can't stop people from scrolling, you're not relevant. And so if you can't adapt to things as quickly as that, you're not relevant anymore.
Wow. So, any piece of advice for people who are in just getting into the industry, building a brand, what kind of advice would you like to give them?
Well, there's no playbook to virality. So there are a lot of people who keep asking, okay, what should I do? Is there a playbook? A, B, C, D will happen, but it doesn't work like that. Whenever we're hiring people, I give this analogy that you're on a boat which is stuck in a storm, and you don't know where to go. You just know directionally where you're heading, and now suddenly there's a fire on the boat. Now, should I doze the fire or should I guide the ship in the storm? I mean, if the fire is not going to be dosed, there is not going to be any ship anymore. So it's just about prioritizing the right thing at the right time. I think that's the biggest takeaway. Yes, there is a brand to build, there is a product to sell, there is some innovation that has to be done, but the core of everything is prioritize and do it right the first time. So,
Wow. You want to add something?
Honestly, I agree at the inherent, like your product and your priorities are the
Yeah.
most important in this thing. But to me, I guess a little bit of let's go with the flow kind of works, because if at least I divide it into two things, right? One is product, where you always focus on product and everything else, and the second thing is branding and social media and engagement with people, where I'm happier taking a free flowing approach, because you don't know what works, which is
Right.
exactly what you said, right? So there you keep taking your shots and something somewhere works, and you're good. And so as long as one is held you down and the other one's flowing around, I think should be fine. But again, like you see, right, different approaches.
Yeah, because when it comes to content, for me, and I'm putting out content, I really have to think about it. As putting out, okay, I am interviewing this particular person, and I know that content is gold, but it doesn't do nothing for me. Whereas like there are two people, I'm just telling them, Acha, what are you wearing? That content is just boomed up. I'm surprised, and I'm like, really? Do I have to do content like that? So it just puts me in a puzzle box. So anything else would you like to add to certain things which you have come across like that? When you've really worked on that content, and then that
And you
content
have to
doesn't
let
do
it go.
yeah, literally.
Honestly, I feel like you can't get emotionally involved with it nowadays. The easier you are comfortable with saying, okay, I'm just going to drop it, and you give people what they want, it's better than to sit back and say, I know what you want, and I'm going to dictate that entirely. It's good to say from time to time, I'll give you something I think you don't expect, but I don't think it's always good to say, I love this thing, and I'm going to do only this, and if you don't want to watch, don't watch, because most of us can't afford to say that with a brand anymore.
All right. So, yeah, well, I think this is the end of the discussion. Thank you so much for being an awesome panel and having a chat with me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last but not least, how can, spaces like these, like Amicable Crew Studio, how do you think that places like this will help a brand grow? Your inputs on that.
well, I think it's all about creating the right content for the right brand, for the right target audience, and what better way than you do it here. I think this is very much required. 5 years ago, probably not, but I think today, given the relevance of digital mediums for both young brands and mature brands, I think this is the forefront of innovation and forefront of what will be required in the market going forward. So, yeah, I think completely in the money.
How about you?
Yeah, he's right place, right time. So all the best to Amicable Crew.
Yeah, to me, the place seems just a little more. I know it'll be well crafted. I know it'll be for me. Everything won't be cookie cutter. Like I see something like anything for you, bro, and it's just like, okay, I'm working with a friend. It's new. It's now. It's comfortable, and I think that's the best place to be, right? Wouldn't you want to work with them?
Absolutely. Harsh?
Oh well.
Well, thank you so much. That was really amazing. Until next time, take care.